So the first part of optimizing a page for SEO is to make sure that the URL of the page is correct. If the URL of the page is not correct or not optimized well, it becomes difficult to access the page, and then it provides not such a great context for the page itself. So in SEO, there is something called SEO best practices for URLs. Now I want you to focus on what is in the body section. Okay, the first part here is describing what a URL is. If you remember in the first lectures, we went over this process when we discussed how the web works, when we discussed how a website is displayed in the browser. But if you don't remember, or if you didn't watch the videos, this is just a quick recap. So a URL, as we see here, Uniform Resource Locator, as it stands for, is a translated version of digits, because a URL, a website address, is actually in digits. The DNS process changes it into human readable format, like we can see here in letters. So the first part of a URL is the protocol. Now that is either HTTP, HTTPS, or FTP. It just tells the server what method we want to get the resource, the URL. And as you can see below, we've got HTTPS. So that stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and the S is for secure. Okay, so Hypertext Transfer Protocol is a protocol for transferring data across the internet. Now the next part here, which is we need to focus on, is the domain name top level. Now in the examples we've given throughout the lecture, we focused on Sony and sony.co.uk. So the domain name would be Sony, and the top level would be .co.uk. It could be .com, .org, .nz, or the many different levels or extensions in terms of domain names that are out there. There are absolutely thousands. And after that is the path. Now this would be going into a specific section of the website. Now here in this example, it's intended that the path is an actual page. So this could be sony.co.uk PlayStation. Okay. In the example below, we've got a more extended path because we are giving the example of a e-commerce URL that goes into different categories of products. So let's look at this URL. This is our example of a best practice SEO optimized URL. Notice that it's in lowercase because that's the best practice. You can have URLs in uppercase, which is not good practice. And also in different server systems, as I explained before, uppercase and lowercase can actually mean different pages. So the best practice is to use lowercase. Then if, for example, here you are creating a URL for a page that is within the website, lower down the website in the structure, you want to have a category. So in our example, if it was Sony, this could be earphones or headphones, and the subcategory could be wireless headphones. And here, the page, we've given an example of primary keyword. So the primary keyword in our example of Sony would relate to a product, and it could be something like WXH110 because Sony likes to name its products in letters. If, for example, however, if we are looking at Apple, this could be apple.com, Mac, iMac, 13-inch MacBook Pro.html. And that's how you would write the URL. The other thing to notice here is we've got a hyphen. So it's always best practice to use a hyphen to separate words rather than underscores. Okay, so there you have it. That is the best practice of writing an SEO optimized URL. Now, just to extend that further, you could have keywords. Back in the day, people were obsessed with putting keywords in the URL, but I don't think that nowadays that is a thing. It's important. And even before, people were naming their websites with keywords. Google's moved beyond that. You don't need to do these things anymore. And you just need to make sure that your URL makes sense and it relates to your brand name and the products that you are serving, and Google can do the rest. Okay, now further on, when we start talking about technical SEO in more detail, we will go through examples of URLs that CMSs throw up, typically in e-commerce examples, where you get URLs that are not like this. You get URLs that contain numbers, you get URLs that contain question marks, you get URLs that contain spaces, and we will go through methods of how to correct those instances to create an optimized URL for SEO. Okay, but there you have it. This is the best practice of creating an SEO in the simplest forms. Okay, so as I always say, guys, keep on watching. There's a lot more to learn.